Hey y'all, we ready for a little Friday trivia? What creatures call an apiary home? What creatures live in an apiary? Just fire out. What's that?
Birds.
Close.
Really? Okay.
Bees. Okay. What is a nanominute? One billionth of a minute. What does the double O indicate in 007 for James Bond? License to Kill. Let's see. I don't know if any baseball fans here. Who hit his 600th home run on September 22nd, 1969 for the San Francisco Giants? Little clue is say hey. Willie Mays. Okay. What Asian leader was known as the Little Brown Saint? Stunned silence from the audience.
Gandhi?
Yes. Did you say Gandhi?
Yeah.
You're correct. What country covers more than 194,000 square miles of the Iberian Peninsula? Keyword Iberian. Great shout.
Spain?
Spain is correct. Finnerty crushing it. What game became popular aboard ocean liners during the 19th century? Shuffleboard. Come on, y'all. What's the largest U.S. agricultural crop by weight? Come on, Gresha. I see you sitting out there. Who said it?
Is it corn?
It is corn. We subsidize corn very heavily. When you have waffles with frozen waffles with whipped cream and syrup, you're eating corn, corn, and corn. Okay. What U.S. state has the longest border with Canada?
Alaska.
Correct. Sort of a trick question there, James. Nice pickup. Okay. What Chaucer poem describes a band of pilgrims setting out from an English inn? They used to read this when I was in high school. Nobody reads it anymore. The Canterbury Tales. What's the endangered animal that is the symbol of the World Wildlife Fund?
A panda bear.
The panda is correct. Also symbol of a fast food Chinese restaurant. All right. What two suits are the one-eyed jacks in a deck of cards? What two suits are the one-eyed jacks in a deck of cards? There's only four choices, people. Shout one out.
Clubs.
Spades is correct. Clubs, you're wrong, James. Spades is one.
Diamonds.
You're really cold. Hearts. Spades and hearts. All right. I think, but that I appreciate the shot. Mm-hmm. What was the longest war in history? Grace Menke.
Isn't the Korean War still going on?
Oh, it sort of is. It was never ended. The answer is actually the 100 Years' War between France and England, which actually I think went for something like 112 years. There's a Simpsons joke about that. They called it Operation Speedy Resolution. But okay, let's get down to work here. Three things. I'm going to keep this one fairly short today. First of all, as a prayer, let's just hope for a healthy weekend from a mental health state. and physical, and that we are kind of rounding into form for school and whatnot. Kate, how was your football practice yesterday?
Eh, decent. Got to finally hit, kind of, so better.
Was it wet on the fields? No.
No, the fields are pretty good.
Okay. Um, any bug bites in lacrosse and soccer people? It's usually buggy down there. Yeah, some? Okay. It's a little river swamp right behind the field. Okay, so 3 things. First, I should probably share the document with you, but I'm going to actually let you guys do this on your own. I shared with you, actually raise your hand if you looked at this. After we looked at our revised thesis statements and the body paragraph, and you guys suggested some people who did well, so I posted Mary's and Grace's. And first of all, thank you two for, without asking, sharing your work. But one thing with this class that we have to do is to get timely responses to things, we'll start doing quite a bit of self and, more importantly, peer editing. So over time, we'll look at everyone's writings, and you don't have to be fearful about what you did well or poorly or whatever. We just have to, our goal is just to kind of say, hey, here's some things that we should be trying to do, or here's some things that this person did well, or whatever it is. So over time, like I said, we'll be looking at everyone's work, and hopefully we're just trying to look at each other's stuff and say, here's what they did well. What I would like you to do, and we could do this as a group, but I think you can do it on your own just as easily, is click, when you look at that document, I just put a bunch of comments on both Mary's and Grace's. And as you read through it, if you click on the comment, it'll highlight the passage that the comment is tied to. And some things that I saw, they're both good. A few things that I noted was, I thought both had good, very sharp thesis sentences that had clearly identified tasks. One thing that, 2 comments that I made on Mary's, one was that in 2 instances, she used full sentences as evidence. And while that's fine, I have not mentioned this yet, that one of the things in AP essays is they like you to use portions of sentences, so partial, paraphrase, or summary, and then just like clipping the phrase that you really need. And that's something that we should practice. And also copying, when you're in a timed writing, copying a full sentence sometimes is a little more, it takes a little longer, and they're trying to see your writing, your ideas. And so it kind of looks like you're dragging in a little more than you need. And when you do it once in a while, it's okay. So it's not like an absolute rule, but as a habit, that just using partial sentences rather than full sentences is a good practice. Secondly, so it's claim, evidence, explanation, right? And what the AP readers are looking for, and this is hard to do, and most people, it takes a lot of practice, is they want you to have a lot of explanation. And I think I put in the directions, like, try to have, every time you're using explanation, try to make it 2 sentences or more. And in a paragraph, you want a minimum of 2 sentences. And I think both Grace and Mary have that, but I think on Mary's, I put a couple comments like, okay, see if you can extend the explanation a little bit here. I know Mary had a nice wrap-up sentence that connected it back to her thesis. And Grace's body paragraph was really strong in that it had a lot of 3 examples of evidence of the same strategy, which was juxtaposition. And so lots of evidence and lots of explanation there. And that, for the first time doing this, that was a really strong paragraph. And I think if you guys want to look at a sample paragraph, those are both good ones to look at. But the difference between like 4 and 5 paragraph essays, when you do this, if you can get 2 strategies where you see like 3 examples of it and can build it out that way, then you can really do 4 paragraphs. So you have your thesis paragraph, you're going to have a little conclusion paragraph that is going to be just a few sentences, and then we'll talk about that on Tuesday. We'll take a look at example how you do a little concluding paragraph for one of these essays. But if you have 2 really well developed body paragraphs, that can make it easier. You can do 3 if you want to talk about 3 strategies, but sometimes when you're getting to the explanation, more depth in that part of it is what they're kind of looking for. So we'll look at an example of a full essay and the concluding paragraph on Tuesday. Okay, so when you guys get done with this, it'll take you 5 minutes. Just click through that essay. It's posted, or those 2 essays, they're posted on stream. And if you click through the comments, you'll see examples of what I'm talking about. Second thing, I was going to do this as a breakout group, but if you guys can, maybe you should have your little space cat for the intro to Into the Wild return to you. If you want to click that open really quickly, your own document, that would be good. Okay, so we said speaker, obviously it's the author, Krakauer. Let's skip purpose. Audience, we know it's who's ever reading the book. Context, we said it's the intro it's the forward to the book, but some people also mention that he talks about how this started as an article for Outside Magazine, and he was and is a freelance journalist, and that he took this one article and expanded into a book, which is also fairly common practice. So that's a little bit of the context to it. All right. What was the exigence? You guys had different answers for this. Anyone want to say what they said? Why did he do this? I mean, it's lots of books have forwards or something like this, but what do you think had made him write this particular note? What was his purpose here? Or what'd you say for exigence? Tater.
I said it gives them a backstory so we can kind of get an image of like how the story's gonna go.
Okay, so it gives us a little more background knowledge going into it. I like that. Megan Costello, what'd you say?
I said that his fascination with Chris's story is what caused him to write the novel, and he wanted more people to be able to connect with Chris.
Okay, so lots of you said something like that as well, that he talked about what this sort of fascination, and I think even uses the word bordering on obsession with Chris's story drove him to take it from a story, a magazine story to a full book. Good. What's the purpose, would you say, of this intro? Tate kind of answered it. Grace Finnerty, what'd you say for purpose?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to what Tate said. I said that he's trying to give some background on the subject for the reader and and his involvement in the story, so people aren't like wondering like, why is he writing about this guy? And then he's also trying to intrigue the reader into his subject.
Okay, great. Lots of you guys said similar things to that. So then we have choices, appeals, tone. Okay, just a couple people hit me with something you said about choice. Alessia, what do you have for that?
He used a really good hook at the beginning to like get the readers to wonder what happened, and then they want to actually read more to figure it out.
Okay, so the hook, which I agree with, is that he says a young man from a well-to-do family went into Alaska. 4 months later, moose hunters found his body. This is something that a lot of detectives stories do, or actually true crime. Has anyone ever read In Cold Blood? Okay, Truman Capote is in real life, he was Dill from To Kill a Mockingbird. He was best friends with Harper Lee when he was a little kid. But he sort of invented true crime in a book called In Cold Blood. But a lot of stories do this. Do they tell you what happens? Okay, so this is not a story about plot, or we know what the ending of the story is. It's about how did this happen? Why did this happen? And so the investigation is how did this kid get there? And actually, weirdly enough, I actually remember this was briefly a national news story that year. And I remember seeing it in the Washington Post, was that this body was discovered and they didn't know who it was. And it was just a little blurb, but I think that's also when Krakauer got it. Okay. So I'm going to move on. You guys have we had lots of different things in terms of choices. One choice is that people mentioned was the choice to tell what happens. Okay, I'm giving you the end of the story. Appeals. Olivia, what did you say about one appeal that you noticed in there?
I said that John used ethos to prove his credibility to convince the reader he knew what he was doing, like talking about.
Okay, he definitely uses that he talks about his own involvement and credibility. All right, so a lot of people talked about ethos. Grace Menke, did you have another appeal in there?
Oh, he said pathos because he brings like the emotion of shock.
Okay. Can you tell us also the sentence you had, and I don't know if this was in choices or appeals, about abstract imagery, the line that you quoted it in your little answer?
I said instead his innocent mistakes turned out to be pivotal and irreversible. His name became the stuff of tabloid headlines, and his bewildered family was left clutching the shards of a fierce and painful love.
And what did you say before that?
He uses abstract imagery in multiple paragraphs for choices.
Okay. And one thing I liked a lot that Grace did and a lot of you did was that you tied your answers to evidence in the image. Okay. And when they're left clutching shards of their love, that's combining concrete and abstract imagery in that metaphor. So we say when you're picking up shards of something, you're picking up shards of what? Somebody?
Glass.
Okay, glass usually, right? Or it could be a broken plate or coffee cup or glass. And so that's that image that they're left picking up pieces of, in this case, their love for their son, brother, whatever it is, okay? How about tone? So the reason that what's good about, or useful, I should say, good, for the Space Cat thing is everything has a rhetorical situation, every piece of writing. And the reason in this class, they like you to use the Space Cat formula is to just say, okay, I'm always looking for tone. What are some different tones? And we had a lot of different answers for this one. That does he use in this passage? Jonah.
Sorry, I was muted. It's kind of mysterious, the whole tone sort of trying to pull you in by making everything a little bit, intriguing.
I agree, and it is a mystery. So like I said before, this is he's setting up a formula to investigate a mystery. So in that sense, mysterious is good. Different words we used here. Esme, what did you say about tone?
I said that you can tell how much he is like invested in the story, but at the same time, his writing feels kind of distant from it.
Okay, I like that a lot. He's both passionate and dispassionate. And dispassionate is a good word to have in your tone toolbox because it means that I'm trying to be even-handed. I'm not trying to be personally involved. And he does take that and he says, okay, I've tried to limit my authorial presence, but I think you'll figure this out. So he kind of goes in that route. But at the same time, he says that I interrupt part of this story with part of my own story. So this is an 18-chapter book. Chapters 14 and 15, he turns away from Chris McCandless and tells a little story about his own hiking adventure in Alaska. Has anyone seen this movie, by the way? No? Okay, maybe we'll watch it when we're done reading it. Sean Penn fought for like 10 years to get the rights to make this movie, and that's a sort of a story in itself. And I think the movie is actually a very good representation of the book, and it cuts that Krakauer part out, of course, because that would make sense in here, but maybe at the end we'll watch it. So if you haven't seen it, hold off. Okay, so good. You guys did very well on that, and just kind of, like I said, just having some words to describe tone, because if you're ever stuck for like what strategies to choose, every passage has a tone, and certain phrases are going to signal that tone to you. And almost, I would say, in anything this long, the tone is going to change. So it's something that you can always find different examples of. All right. I think we'll hold off on the discussion of the actual book till Tuesday. So I said we were going to go through chapters 1 and 2, but let's just wait and we'll go through 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you've read through chapter 4, you're good. I posted, they're in that hard packet you got with the readings with like Self-Reliance and Walden. But I also just put the first 12 chapters, some reading and discussion questions online. When you're done reading, just look those over and see if they make sense. If you think, yeah, I get where that's going, then you're fine. If you want to write them down in hard copy, that's great too. But we'll go through chapters 1 through 4 on Tuesday. All right, the last thing, and I'm going to give you guys some time to work on this, is the manifesto, okay? So I'm trying to, like I said, I don't care how you space it, but we're trying to get this into one page of text, basically. It can be single spaced. If it's double spaced, that's fine too. But what's the manifesto? A couple elements that you have to have. It has to be, this is like you're shouting this out. This is a statement. This is something I care about. It can be a large issue. I think one person turned this in, and that was Alicia. Alicia, what was your issue that you were writing about?
I wrote about climate change.
Climate change. She tackled the big one. Okay. All right. So that's a big issue. Okay. You can do a big issue like that. You can do something very local. You can do something very personal. You can do something Cotter related. You can do something Winona related. You can do something Costello family related if you want. Okay. Or whatever. But what we're looking for is this is a call to arms, a call to action, that if you nailed this on the wall, a lot of student unions when you get to college will have physical message boards as well as digital message boards, and where you can post something up and say, hey, everybody who cares about this issue meet at 8 o'clock on Monday or whatever. So you want that. And like I said, it can be serious. Climate change is very serious. It can be lighthearted. I did this a couple years ago, and Cade Hansen did something about getting Pringles out of the last Pringle chips out of the container, something like that, without getting your hand stuck in there. So he was passionate about that one. So then you have to have the 3 lines from Emerson, Thoreau, Whitman, Dickinson, and try to tie them to your ideas artfully. So this isn't meant to be torture. This is meant for you to be able to weave some of those ideas, some of these transcendental ideas, into defense of something that you care about, okay? That's due Monday morning. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, I still have one more Fastenal racer, so maybe, I know Esme's probably been having fun with that in her can cooler for best sentence ever, but maybe we'll find another prize if we can vote on which manifesto we like the best. Allie, you have a question? Nope, you're waving goodbye. Was that the hey?
No one wants your stupid cars.
Well, that's your opinion, Megan. Okay, well, maybe we'll find something better than a stupid car. Okay. Okay, you guys work on the manifesto, read 1 through 4. We are, just to let you know, probably on Friday of next week, we're going to do a graded timed writing sort of test and rhetorical analysis, and then we'll move on into synthesis, the next piece of the puzzle, and some multiple choice stuff in terms of the prep. Okay. Have a good weekend. If you want, you've got half an hour to knock this piece out. Good luck. Looking forward to reading them. Have a good weekend.